In today's episode, we are going to talk about how to blur a background in Pixlr. And this is a little bit different than what I did for Photoshop and Photoshop Elements. We're going to have to get a little bit creative to get the same effect. But I want to show that it can be done, that a lot of things in this program that's free can be done with a few workarounds that'll at least give us a fairly similar result to Photoshop or Photoshop Elements. So I've opened up a photo here that I want to work with. I've got the background layer, which is just a plain layer, and then I have my photo. So I'm going to quickly, and this is just a copy. My original is still safe somewhere because I just opened it into this document. So I'm going to make a copy of it, and here I'm going to put sharp layer, and this top one I'm going to call blurred layer. And this will help us as we make the changes that we need to make. So on the blurred layer, we're going to go up to filter and we're going to click on Gaussian blur. And there's this little slider and it automatically previews it for us. So if we went all the way up, it's quite blurry. So we're going to just take this down. The same numbers that applied for Photoshop and Photoshop Elements don't really apply here, but I think we're going to do maybe here in the 80s. We're going to click OK. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to switch these layers around. So we're going to put the blurred layer on the bottom. In essence, our sharp layer is acting as our mask, but even though there are masks in Pixlr, I couldn't get the mask to work the same way I needed it to, as it did in Photoshop. So now instead of doing the paintbrush, we are going to do the eraser. And we're going to change the size. Oh, probably up quite a bit. I would say even more than, maybe we'll do diameter up to like 600. Okay, that's good. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to erase the parts of the sharp layer that will reveal the blurred layer underneath. Now this is a lot harder than in Photoshop where you can use a mask, because it's a lot more difficult to make corrections if we do too much, but we can always use the undo button if we need to. So I'm going to do this. I'm not going to get too close. And I'm going to kind of leave a broad area around our main subject here. And just color or just erase the other parts. Now, what I'm going to do for the part closest to my subject is I'm going to change the opacity down to about 40, maybe even 20. And that will help blend in where it's kind of this sharp edge. And even though it will get a little bit of our subject, and that one kind of got a bit, so we're just going to undo. Oh, whoops, wrong undo. Edit, undo. There we go. And I'm going to change our size of brush down. So we're working a little bit closer. Okay, here we go. Now this is still blurring it, but it's not blurring it as much. And we'll get a little bit closer. And then we're going to change the opacity again to just a little bit. So it's barely blurring it. Or in essence, only erasing parts of it. Okay. And there we go. There's our final product. We left the sand and the toys. And then what we can also do, if we want it to be blended just a little bit more, is we can change the opacity. Well, I guess we really don't want to change the opacity of our sharp layer because that would just make this part look more blurry. So yeah, I think this is pretty good and gives you the effect of just making it pop a little bit more. Play around with it and see what you think.